The streets were dark and mostly empty. A young woman hurried out the door of her house, leashed her dog, and quickly got behind the wheel of the parked car. The car sped up and disappeared into the city's darkness. For the young runaway, it was the happiest night she had waited for 4 long years. Today, we will visit Lawrence, Kansas, and learn all about the life of this young woman and understand what made that particular night the happiest one for her. So if you're interested in finding out more about what happened, let's start from the beginning and share everything we know. Lawrence is a small town with a population of less than 100,000 people, ranked among the top 10 college towns. It's a wonderful place to live with minimal criminal activity. However, this incident completely disrupted the town's peace. On January 15, 2014, a young man contacted the local police department to report a disturbing, suspicious noise at his neighbor's house. Officers were dispatched to the address provided. However, no one answered the door, and the house was empty. They surveyed the surrounding area, and through the glass door in the backyard, they spotted a silhouette resembling a person lying down. Once inside, the police confirmed that it wasn't a mistake. The silhouette indeed turned out to be a person. On the living room floor, they were faced with a horrifying scene. A middle-aged man lay in a pool of dried blood. His hands were bound, and his throat had been cut so deeply that he was nearly decapitated. What was just a routine check turned into a criminal investigation, the motives of which needed to be determined. The identity of the deceased was quickly established. He was 52-year-old local entrepreneur and owner of a chain of pizza restaurants, Harold Sasko. He was born on September 11, 1961 in Florida and was the 10th child out of 12 in his family. His relatives described him as a responsible and organized person who was always a leader in everything. Harold worked hard from the age of 14, dreaming of becoming a successful entrepreneur and owning his own business. After studying for about 2 years in college in Oklahoma, Harold worked as an administrator in a chain of pizza restaurants in Texas, where he learned management and was able to save money to achieve his goals. In the 1990s, the Sasko family moved to Kansas. Here, the enterprising Harold opened his own pizzeria. The business was successful, and within a short span of time, Mr. Sasko opened another pizzeria in Topeka and one in Lawrence. But who could have done this to the respectable man, or could Harold have had a dark side to his personality that warranted what happened to him? Investigators quickly established that Harold Sasko had been living with 19-year-old Sarah McLinn for the last few years. However, she was not found at home and could have been the second victim of a brutal attack by a mysterious criminal. Sarah could have been the last person to see Harold alive, but where did the girl disappear to? In order to find the missing Sarah and uncover the mystery of the relationship between an adult man and a young woman, investigators had to piece together information about the complicated and secretive relationships that had been kept under wraps in the deceased Harold Sasko's home. Sarah Gonzales-McLinn was born in 1994 in Topeka, Kansas. She was a normal child, energetic, cheerful, sweet, and smiling. The girl was interested in everything new and fearlessly tried new hobbies. In her teenage years, she faced harassment from a neighbor, and her mental state was shaken. Sarah was very scared by the harsh behavior of the adult man. She felt helpless. During this time, disputes between her parents became more frequent, which aggravated the situation at home and had a detrimental effect on the girl's state. She had to grow up early to try to understand adult difficulties, but the immature psyche of a teenager did not yield the desired result, and Sarah began to drown her problems in alcohol. But the addiction to drinking did not bring relief, and Sarah, having a nervous breakdown, wanted to end her own life. After the attempt, she was hospitalized, where she underwent treatment in a psychiatric clinic for some time. Sarah dreamed of leaving her parents' home, where she was suffocated by the toxic atmosphere with parents who could not divide their property during the divorce. She started saving money to rent a room and move out. During a period of despair, Sarah met an adult man who calmed her and boosted her confidence. That was Harold. He ran a mentorship program for youth where he met Sarah, who got a job at one of his restaurants. By the age of 16, she was already taking orders at the pizzeria counter and diligently saving money for her dream. During this time, Sarah was quite happy. She left the hated home for a place where she felt needed. She made friends and established a relationship with Harold. In turn, he became a second father to her, providing the love and attention she sorely lacked. One day, in a confidential conversation, Sarah honestly told him about her problems, and they moved in. Harold offered Sarah to move in with him temporarily until she found separate accommodation. Sarah's mother was against it, but the girl was adamant. After enrolling in college, Sarah moved in with her mentor. It was a forced measure, which Sarah believed should not last long. Harold paid for her education. They established a friendly relationship and grew close as father and daughter. And for a long time, that was indeed the case. Interviews with neighbors and witnesses showed that Harold was a pillar of support for Sarah after the difficulties she had experienced in her family. She found refuge with an adult friend. Harold was both a mentor and a friend to her, despite their significant age difference. After Harold Sasko's demise, the police needed to find Sarah McLinn as quickly as possible, as she could be in danger. Blood tests showed that all the blood belonged to the deceased, indicating that Sarah was alive and could indeed have been abducted. During the search, it was discovered that Sarah's biological father had reported her missing much earlier than the news of Harold's demise became known, but the police had been inactive, assuming teenage maximalism and her frequent departures from home. Detectives believed that the young woman might also have been a victim of an attack. Her search continued. However, the investigation considered various theories of the attack and crime. One of them was robbery. During the house inspection, it was found that some valuables and items had been stolen. Closets were partially emptied. Money and weapons owned by Harold were also stolen. There was disorder everywhere. Most of the items had been thrown out of the closets. After compiling lists of the stolen items, it became clear that only Sarah's belongings were missing. Her tablet, phone, and car were found on the parking lot at the house. For the investigators, this confirmed that the young woman had been abducted. Mr. Sasko's dog, Oliver, also disappeared without a trace. But why would the abductor take the dog? The disappearance of the dog puzzled the investigators, and they noted that Harold's car was also missing from the parking lot. The license plate was checked in the database, and the police began actively searching for the car. By tracking all the recordings from the city's surveillance cameras where the car could have been spotted, they managed to determine the direction of the suspected criminal, but the blurred frames did not allow them to identify him. Information about the stolen car with the possible criminal was distributed to nearby posts along the possible routes, but no clarifying information was received. While waiting for information about the car's movement, the investigators did not waste time. They actively questioned Sarah's friends and acquaintances, hoping to get more information about the unusual cohabitation of the young woman and the mature man. At that time, Harold Sasko had been married 3 times, but was divorced and lived only with Sarah. The fact that a 19-year-old woman was living with a 52-year-old man as friends was peculiar. But no other information about Sarah and Harold's relationship could be obtained. No one had ever seen them as a couple. Sarah had her own room in Harold's house. Could it be that this mature, well-to-do man really became a second father and mentor to the young, lost girl? It really seemed to be the case. Harold Sasko was viewed as a kind and sensitive person and a benefactor. His colleagues also confirmed no closeness between the boss and the employee. The investigation was at a standstill. After a critical 48 hours, Sarah McLinn had still not been found. Investigators were puzzled, but continued their search for the young woman. 3 days into the search efforts, an unexpected phone call to Sarah's parents' home turned the detectives' theory upside down. The awaited call was brief. The caller waited for an answer and then hung up silently. The police, anticipating a call from the suspected abductor, managed to trace it quickly. The caller's location was identified as a 24-hour store at a gas station in Bishop, Texas. Immediately heading to the location and reviewing surveillance footage, the police were shocked to recognize a female figure very similar to Sarah. The woman freely entered the store, made purchases, made the call, then left in Harold's car. Could it be possible that Sarah, whom the police were searching for as a victim of abduction, was actually the criminal and had fled, taking her beloved dog with her? On January 25, 2014, rangers in Everglades National Park in Dade County, Florida, found Sarah McLinn sleeping in the parked car with Oliver, Mr. Sasko's dog. Upon searching the car, several knives, an axe, and Harold's pistol were found. On February 1, 2014, after she waived her extradition hearing in Florida, Sarah was transported back to Kansas, where officers placed her in the Douglas County Jail. The car was seized and sent for inspection. Forensic analysis confirmed that the bloodied knife found was the weapon used in Harold Sasko's demise, but what led to such a brutal crime? During Sarah's interrogation, it was revealed that their relationship initially mirrored that of a father and daughter. He took care of her and told everyone she was his stepdaughter to avoid unnecessary questions. Sasko was aware of Sarah's difficult relationship with her parents. He knew she had been brutally assaulted by a man who had left her with cigarette-burned scars. She had tried to end her life, and she was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. Harold promised to take care of her, but the supposed sanctuary included unrestricted access to marijuana and alcohol. Cocaine and ecstasy were also available. He charged her rent, and she bought her own food. He gradually gained control over everything she did. After living together for about 6 months, Harold confessed his love for her. Sarah rejected him, but he persisted in his advances. Eventually, he demanded intimacy as a condition for her to stay with him. Harold took her salary, claiming it as compensation for what he spent on her upkeep daily. He threatened to sue her if she left. Harold degraded and insulted her daily. One day, Harold told Sarah that she was not attractive enough and that men preferred women with more voluptuous figures. With such an appearance, he said, she would never find true love and would never be appealing to men. Sarah objected but felt she had no choice. He paid for her to have a nose job and buttock implants. After these surgeries, Sarah's debt to Harold increased by $10,000. Her last paycheck from the pizzeria was $265. He demeaned her and demanded total submission. Out of desperation, Sarah began drinking alcohol and using psychotropic substances when Harold demanded intimacy. If she tried to resist, he would hold her down. Taking advantage of Sarah's weakened state, Harold repeatedly forced himself on her, and she eventually entered into a relationship with him at his insistence. Sarah fell into a state of depression from which she sought to hide under Harold's supposed protection. She became increasingly restrained and withdrawn. She suffered from victim syndrome and was afraid to leave him or tell anyone. She saw only one way out of her moral confinement, ending her partner's life. Sarah confessed that she made the decision 5 days before the act. On January 14th, Harold came home late in the evening and started working on the sound system. At one point, he asked Sarah to bring him a beer. Knowing that if he drank, he would force himself on her, she decided to act. She added crushed sleeping pills to the beer, which she had prepared in advance. After some time, Harold lost consciousness. Sarah tied his ankles and wrists with zip ties. Then she took a hunting knife and inflicted a deep wound on his neck. During the interrogation, Sarah confessed that at one moment she reconsidered her decision to take his life, but Harold was already bleeding out, and she felt she had no choice but to finish what she started. With renewed fury, she continued to stab him in the neck with relentless force, nearly decapitating him. Then Sarah took a shower, packed her belongings, and left in Harold's car, taking Oliver, the dog she had cared for. First, she headed to Texas, then to Florida to see the ocean. That's where the rangers detained her. The trial for the demise of Harold Sasko began on March 5, 2015, at the Douglas County Courthouse. In his opening statement, Prosecutor Charles Branson told the jury that Sarah McLinn had meticulously planned Harold Sasko's end. Lawrence Police Detective Robert Brown testified for the prosecution, showing that before the act, Sarah McLinn had made Google searches using the phrase, "vulnerable places on the neck." She confessed to inflicting knife wounds on the victim and then cutting his throat. When the detective asked her why she ended Mr. Sasko's life, she replied, "I wanted someone to die." Because of these words, the trial focused on her ability to form the intent to commit the act. However, in a private meeting with the judge prior to the trial, Prosecutor Charles Branson stated that it would be inappropriate for the jury to hear about Harold Sasko's cruel treatment of Sarah McLinn, and he intentionally omitted this information. He believed that the details of the accusations would be inappropriate at the trial stage because they would merely elicit sympathy for the defendant without any supporting evidence. Branson did not want the years of domestic abuse to become public knowledge. Defense attorney Carl Cornwell agreed with the restrictions on presenting evidence of cruel treatment, which he could have introduced in court. Instead, he tried to convince the jury that Sarah was mentally unstable and unable to fully comprehend her actions. Carl Cornwell argued that Douglas County Judge Paula Martin should send the accused, Sarah McLinn, to a state hospital rather than prison, and if a prison sentence was to be decided, sentence her to 25 years due to her mental illness. However, prosecutor David Melton criticized the defense's portrayal of Sarah as a victim. He added that a psychological evaluation at Larned State Hospital, an impartial entity, showed that McLinn did not meet the criteria for dissociative identity disorder. The district judge reported that she had been found to have borderline personality disorder with antisocial tendencies. The report also stated that Sarah McLinn exaggerated the symptoms of her mental illness. In his courtroom address, the prosecutor added that the crime was not committed by a little sweet girl, but by a methodical and far-sighted criminal who had planned it in advance and intentionally left her mobile phone behind to avoid being tracked. In his closing statement, Prosecutor Melton said that in his legal career, he had never encountered something so reprehensible and brutal as the crime committed against Harold Sasko, and therefore the defendant deserved a sentence ranging from 50 years to life imprisonment.
"Some crimes are so evil, so horrendous, that they warrant harsher punishment," Melton said. He argued that Sarah could have chosen a different method, such as suffocation, overdose, or poisoning Sasko. But the fact that McLinn forcefully penetrated Sasko's carotid artery with a long knife spoke to the horror of the act. Addressing the court, the prosecutor repeatedly emphasized that she chose a knife because she wanted to prolong the experience of the act and likely enjoyed it greatly. After considering the arguments, psychological assessments, requests from relatives, and letters to the court, Martin ultimately decided that there is no evidence to support commitment to a psychiatric facility instead of prison, and that the act was committed in a disgusting, barbaric, and brutal manner. Douglas County Judge Paula Martin sentenced Sarah Gonzales-McLinn to 50 years in prison. She must serve at least 50 years before becoming eligible for parole, at which time she will be nearly 70 years old. After the sentencing, Sarah apologized to her own family and Harold Sasko's family. Sarah has appealed the sentence based on the provision of ineffective counsel. In the meantime, the defense lawyers began preparing a clemency petition and uncovered necessary evidence of abuse and the dark side of Harold Sasko that had not been presented to the jury during the trial. It turned out that during the search for Sarah, a significant number of crucial clues were overlooked. After all, the investigation's attention was occupied with investigating a crime against life, not proving domestic abuse. An examination of Harold Sasko's phone confirmed that he had repeatedly shown interest in child-explicit material. He downloaded hundreds of videos to his phone and visited X-rated sites discussing children, teenagers, and zoophilia. At least 20 times, he visited websites where men were intimate or appeared to be intimate with women who seemed to be asleep. The police found a camera and flash drives on a desk in Sasko's bedroom. A detective stated that the images found on the flash drives showed that Sasko and Sarah McLinn were just friends who spent time together. The defense attorneys were not allowed to review the files. Sarah was shocked and confused when the evidence of harsh treatment was not presented in court. She did not give up on proving that at the moment of ending her aggressor's life, she saw no other way to save herself.
On March 20th, 2015, after deliberating for just 4 hours, the jury found Sarah Gonzales-McLinn guilty of first-degree premeditated homicide with aggravating circumstances, unaware of the months of harsh treatment that preceded her dreadful crime. Now her lawyers hope to get her out of prison, convincing the governor to pardon her, which is a long-term attempt to correct what they consider an injustice. In 2021, the newly elected district attorney of Douglas County, Susana Valdez, struck a stunning deal. The sentence for Sarah McLinn was reduced by half in exchange for waiving the right to appeal. The case of Sarah McLinn is one of the most confusing and recurring institutional failures where, in the pursuit of justice, the truth remains sidelined. Currently, Sarah Gonzales-McLinn remains incarcerated at the correctional facility in Topeka, Kansas. The earliest she can be released is in 2039, but strangely enough, prison gave Sarah a chance to heal. In her only interview, she admitted that being locked up was the biggest relief for her. She found time to reflect on what had happened. She wrote letters to God, trying to cope with her shame. In prison, she trains Labrador and Golden Retrievers for service in an organization based in Washington, Kansas. Sarah says that the dogs have healed her more than she could have ever imagined. In her statement, Sarah said that since she's been in prison, she's dedicated every day to becoming better, not just for herself, but for her family and society. I will continue to ensure that everything that happened was not in vain, as I am no longer the young woman who felt hopeless and didn't know what to do. At the scene where Harold Sasko's life was ended, the word freedom was written on the wall in blood, a word the investigators initially struggled to decipher. During questioning, Sarah replied that she wrote what she felt after committing the crime. Paradoxically, it was in prison that Sarah Gonzales-McLinn found her freedom.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Today, we're faced with another unfortunate case.
On November 6, 2014, Mexico City police officers found human remains. A part of the torso was found in a vacant lot near the exit from the city. A few days later, bags with arms and legs were found in different parts of the capital. The horrifying fact was the absence of fingers on the limbs. The police sounded the alarm. Apparently, a particularly violent criminal was at work in the region. Squads of officers were assembled and combed the streets. The main goal was to find the head and limbs of the unfortunate man and prevent further crimes. At that moment, everyone was sure that this case was the work of a brutal serial killer. The fingers and head were never found. However, thanks to the professional work of forensic experts, it was determined that the remains belonged to the same person. But due to the absence of fingers and teeth, it was impossible to find out who this person was. The story unfolds in North America. The main character, a resident of Mexico City, Alejandra La Fuente, a searing brunette with gorgeous hair and bright brown eyes, which further emphasized the thick black as tar lashes. She had an athletic, trim figure, which she tried to maintain by practicing fitness, yoga, and breathing exercises. Alejandra loved to take care of herself. She could often be found at a beauty salon, massage, or spa. In warm weather, she lounged on the beach doing scientific work, and on cloudy days she could visit tanning salons. In general, we can say that the young woman loved herself very much and considered herself the standard of female attractiveness. Alejandra did not lag behind in terms of career. Her father is a doctor of sciences, a famous psychiatrist, Alberto da Fuente. He is a luminary of science, deals with such deviations of the psyche, such as schizophrenia and manic disorders, and he is famous not only for his scientific work, but also for his experiments on patients. For Alejandra, her father was an idol. Wanting to achieve the same success, she followed in his footsteps. To do so, she enrolled in the best university for psychiatry and graduated with honors. Her perseverance, resourcefulness, extraordinary intelligence, as well as her father's connections, helped her to write and defend her thesis on manic syndrome. However, in the future, Alejandra did not become engaged in psychiatry. She was attracted by the work of a psychotherapist. Thanks to her father's money, the young woman got a license and opened her office in a new business center in the heart of the capital. There was no shortage of clients, but she only saw women. Women with eating disorders, depression, relationship problems, and low self-esteem came for counseling. Alejandra helped to solve family problems, but as it often happens, her personal life left much to be desired. The young woman's first marriage broke up, but in the end, the couple had 2 children. 2 charming girls with Alejandra's eyes and her father's sense of humor. However, Alejandra was not discouraged. In her opinion, 2 children were no reason to give up on herself. She still dreamed of meeting her other half, a man who could also be a good father to her daughters. Sometime after the couple separated, the ex-husband, whose name is not disclosed, came home to Alejandra. It was a normal practice for the couple. The man would come on weekends to give time to his little girls and help his ex-wife with household chores if needed. However, the ex-husband had no idea that this visit would turn out to be his last. Alejandra asked him to enter the house through the backyard, reasoning that the lock on the front door was jammed. The man made his way into the house. Alejandra said that her youngest daughter was bathing right now and asked him to come into her bathroom. Suspecting nothing, the man went in there. There was a ringing silence in the house. There were no sounds, the usual cartoons, the laughter of children. The man went into the bathroom. There was tape on the floor, and there was no daughter in the filled bathtub. He began to realize that something was going wrong. Right at that second, his ex-wife stood behind him with a hammer and delivered a blow with all her might to his head. Then another one. The man fell. Blood was pouring out of the gaping hole in his skull. Everything around him was covered in blood. As the experts later found out, the man had no chance to save himself. Death occurred almost instantly after the first blow with a heavy blunt object. The eldest daughter, who unexpectedly returned early from a friend, became an unwitting witness to this truly horrifying picture. The children often observed their parents' quarrels. Alejandra was determined to be mentally disturbed. She often took it out on her friends. Friends even noticed how the young woman could hit her husband. They often noticed scratches on his arms and neck. As for the housemates, they constantly observed her tantrums in an even place and inadequate behavior. But this time the situation got out of control. The daughter ran out of the house and began to call for help. Almost immediately, a neighbor came running, who then called the police squad. The psychologist was arrested and charged with murder. At the station, the young woman was placed in a cell, where she had to stay for a month until her first hearing. At the trial, Alejandra denied her guilt. Lawyers put forward a version of self-defense. According to them, the ex-husband was intensely jealous of Alejandra and made up that she was bringing men into the house, which could negatively affect the psyche of little girls. On the day of the crime, he showed up unplanned at his ex-wife's house, went through the back door, hoping to catch his wife with another man. Then he pounced on Alejandra, who was in the bathroom at the time trying to put together a nightstand. She then had to exert self-defense, in which she delivered 2 blows to the back of her ex-husband's head. On June 14, 2012, the sentence was handed down. Taking into account the evidence provided by the defense in the presence of 2 minor children, Alejandra was sentenced to 1 year and 4 months. Thanks to the coordinated work of lawyers and the money of his father, the term behind bars was replaced by a suspended sentence. A couple of months later, the appeal was filed again with a request to drop the charges. The argument was assault in self-defense. Human rights activists asked for a jury trial. They felt unbearably sorry for the poor woman who was presented at trial as a victim of domestic violence. As a result, the court reviewed the case and handed down an acquittal. After her release, the young woman proceeded to provide her psychological counseling as before. She created an image of a victim of gender inequality who fought for her rights like most women in North America and finally won. This created image made Alejandra even more popular to potential clients. Soon, Maria Alejandra met Alan Carrera Cuela, a large Mexican businessman, the son of Adrian Carrera Francis. He was a tall, handsome, and statuesque man. His father had previously been head of special services for the Central District and had achieved considerable success in his career. Soon, Alan expanded his business and created a whole chain of construction stores that began to open all over the country. Part of Alan's business was legalized, but the other part, which few people knew about, was closely connected with crime. By the way, it was for this reason that his father was removed from his position when one of his son's financial frauds was uncovered. In addition, Alan had a stake in a criminal group that was engaged in the transportation of psychotropic substances to the United States. Their base was located in a border town and was guarded by purchased police officers. This group controlled a small portion of the trafficking of psychoactive substances in the South. Alan's father was proven to be involved in his son's affairs. The police managed to get a statement out of him, so he was facing a 20-year prison sentence. But on July 18, 2000, Adrian Carrera was released early, thanks to the Witness Protection Program. Immediately after his release, he devoted all his time to his son and his legitimate business. The son grew up quickly, adopting his father's views and experiences. After graduating from college, Alan Carrera decided to follow in his father's footsteps and became an entrepreneur. He was very interested in the store of household appliances, which, despite his young years, he completely led himself. This business was not as large as his father's, but it brought good money. There were always a lot of women around him, but Alan from childhood was in love with a classmate, whom he took as his wife, smart, beautiful, from a good family. The marriage was short, but bright.
Daddy had a beautiful daughter. However, a lot of work and almost total absence of Alan at home led this marriage to divorce. Alan was extremely hard to part with the woman he loved since high school. New novels did not bring pleasure, and loneliness and sadness led to the fact that the man began to drink. Gradually, this grew into a pernicious habit. In an attempt to cope with prolonged depression and love for alcohol, Alan tried many ways: books, AA circles, drips. Until one day, fate did not lead the man to a consultation with the famous psychiatrist Alberto, the father of Maria Alejandra. Alan's now ex-wife was also going through a difficult divorce. Alan was the only man in the young woman's life, and despite the separation, she could not allow anyone else to her. To somehow get rid of her loneliness, Alan's ex-wife also decided to visit a therapist. The psychiatrist, with whom Alan was rehabilitated, explained that he could not lead both spouses for ethical reasons, and therefore recommended the woman to turn to Alejandra. However, it is worth noting that he did not inform the clients that Alejandra was his daughter. Alejandra quickly realized that her patient's ex-husband could be a great match. He was said to be a pleasant man in the prime of life, and quite wealthy. Not thinking long, Alejandra asked her client to bring her ex-husband for another consultation. According to the therapist, she would be able to solve their problem in one session and break the strong bond between the former spouses. From the very first minutes of the steamy session, Alejandra began to put her plan to seduce the entrepreneur into action. The result did not wait long. Immediately after the session, Alan offered the therapist a cup of coffee to discuss family problems. For propriety, the young woman at first even refused to go on a date, because it was contrary to medical ethics. But the date took place the same evening. Between them quite quickly spun an affair. Soon Alan's ex-wife found out about it. She was shocked. She even wanted to report the incident to the doctor's ethics committee, but she didn't. Alejandra was a very competent specialist, and therefore was able to convince her client to let the situation go. After all, it says jealousy and unwillingness to let go of the former spouse, and so, according to the doctor, a happy future will not work. In the commission, Alan's ex-wife decided not to apply, but also with the sessions were over. Meanwhile, the relationship with the newly married couple developed quite rapidly. A few months after the first date, the young people decided to live together. After 2 more months, they decided to legalize their relationship. But Alan did not even suspect what skeletons in his closet hides his fiancée and what were the reasons for divorcing her ex-husband. In April 2014, Alan decided to visit his parents and flew to them for the weekend. It became a great occasion to talk about his beloved and the imminent wedding. Alan's parents were extremely surprised that they would find out such important things so late. They had never heard of Alejandra in their son's life before, which was very strange. A week after the meeting with the parents, the marriage was registered. Interestingly, Alejandra asked her husband not to call her friends and relatives. Invitations were not sent. The wedding was supposed to be modest, and the budget did not allow inviting everyone one would have liked. However, as it later turned out, the bride's father did attend the marriage ceremony. At first, the life of the young family seemed like a fairy tale. Young, happy with a huge number of plans and desires. But it did not last long. Alejandra could not hide her hysterical character. Approach the horrifying denouement of this story, but no one suspects it yet. The relationship between the newlyweds began to change dramatically. Alan was a rather secretive person, and with friends, details of personal life did not share. Therefore, about what was happening behind the closed doors of the couple, little was known. However, it was obvious that the former relationship gave a crack, and the couple no longer seemed so happy. After meeting Alejandra, Alan distanced himself from his family. The last straw was the wedding, to which parents were not invited. After that, they even stopped calling each other. Alan's remaining buddies began to notice that his spouse became more nervous, sometimes behaving inadequately and quickly losing her temper. After a couple of such incidents, Alan was very ashamed and decided to minimize joint meetings. Quarrels in the family occurred on a daily basis and almost always unfounded. One evening, Alejandra, by her own testimony, decided to get into her husband's cell phone. As is usually the case, correspondence with some women was discovered, with quite racy content. Of course, it was impossible to turn a blind eye to such things. According to Alejandra, this was the last straw. She reported in court that her husband beat her, insulted and humiliated her in every possible way. When cheating was also discovered, it was pointless to save this marriage. For unknown reasons, Alejandra did not apply traditional methods of psychotherapy and try to save the relationship. Having thought of her husband's cheating, the young woman decided to deal with Alan with a method already known to her. As soon as she made this decision, all her attention could be focused on creating the perfect murder plan. Meanwhile, Alan continued his usual and measured rhythm of life. He didn't even realize what was in store for him. Alan still rarely communicated with his family, but he could not miss the traditional feast, which the family held annually in honor of his beloved grandfather's birthday. Alan, of course, came to the feast, but his parents made it clear that his wife, not the most welcome guest in their house. This situation pissed Alejandra off and further aggravated the relationship in the couple. Was it possible to imagine that this would be the last time the family saw Alan alive? On October 31st, 2014, Alan's phone was last used to send a text message to his family that he had reached home safely after his birthday party. He has not been in touch since then. He hadn't been seen at work for a few days either, which was quite strange because it had never happened before. The entrepreneur was extremely responsible for his work, and soon the launch of a new store was expected, and the presence of the head was simply necessary. The reason for this was a terrifying plan of the spouse, which she put into action. After Alan returned from the holiday, there was another scandal, after which Alejandra decided to immediately dispose of her husband. She added a powerful sleeping pill to the milk he traditionally drank before going to bed. Then she smothered him with a pillow. She enjoyed watching her husband slowly lose consciousness in a pathetic attempt to remove the pillow and take a breath. Then came the hardest part, getting rid of the body. It was a moment she hadn't had time to plan for. Alan was too heavy, so she had to make do with what she had. Time was short, so Alejandra ran to the neighbor's vegetable garden to get an electric saw. With a grim smile on her face, she sawed her husband's body into pieces. Only a true sadist could do such a thing. Then she packed the body parts into garbage bags and had the foresight to cut off fingers and pull teeth. It was these that would help the investigation in identifying the person, in case the body was found. Alejandra stuffed all the bags into suitcases so that she could remove the corpse from the house without suspicion, but she did not succeed. As dawn approached, Alejandra was unable to leave the house with the suitcase unnoticed. An elderly neighbor, who suffered from insomnia, watched her from her window. She was a little alarmed by the young woman's early departure. Besides, for some reason, her husband did not help to lift the heavier suitcases. And Alejandra was behaving very strangely. She was always looking around. At dawn, Alejandra returned home. This surprised the vigilant neighbor even more. As it would later turn out, she had scattered bags of her ex-husband's remains in different neighborhoods to cover her tracks. As the new day dawned, she went on with her normal life. On November 6, 2014, Mexican police officers discovered the first horrifying find, a human torso with no teeth and no fingers on the hand. The entire police force was put on alert as the incident was egregious in its level of brutality. Less than a day later, other body parts were found in various parts of the city. It is also interesting that the distance between the places where the packages were found was quite significant. Later, this is what would be attributed to Alejandra's long absence from home. All the body parts were sent to the best forensic laboratory, where experts quickly established the fact that all the parts belonged to the same person. In order to avert suspicion from herself, the perpetrator started writing messages to Alan's relatives. She wanted to avert suspicion, but she only made things worse. She didn't even know that her husband had recently distanced himself from the family and had no contact with his relatives. Alejandra informed Alan's parents on his behalf that they were going on vacation and would be out of touch. The whole plan was ruined by Alejandra's father. Alberto began making phone calls to Alan's father's house. He wanted to clarify if his son-in-law's family knew Alejandra's location. Alberto hadn't heard from her in a while, and the patients are very worried about not being able to attend counseling sessions. Later, he calls Alan's relatives again to inform them that his daughter has been found and that she had to be forcibly admitted to the clinic because she is suffering from depression due to her husband's cheating. This greatly frightened the relatives, and they tried to find Alan, but all was unsuccessful, and then the family of the businessman turned to the police. The laboratory experts decided to compare the remains of the corpse recently found with Alan's characteristics. The similarity was 100%, and his relatives also identified him. It was especially hard for Alan's grandfather. Soon after the identification, he became ill with heart disease because it was his only grandson. The investigation issued a search warrant for Alan's home and office. A hillock of fresh earth was found in the backyard of the house. After digging, the man's fingers and teeth were discovered. The find further shocked the capital city. Alejandra was immediately apprehended. Traces of blood were also found in one of the rooms, as well as on the trunk of the car and in the garage. At first, Alejandra tried to deny her guilt. She hoped that she would be able to get away with it with impunity, as she had with her previous husband. But the investigation quickly sorted out the case. The testimony of an elderly witness helped. The time she gave coincided with Alan's estimated time of death. Alejandra used her position to obtain a powerful sleeping pill, a kind of drug only a doctor could get his hands on. This further aggravated the case. The evidence obtained helped establish a link between Alejandra and the brutal massacre of her husband. CCTV cameras also helped trace that the man had gone into the house and never came out of the house again. The fact that the suitcases were taken out was also confirmed by CCTV footage. On December 10, 2014, the jury reached a verdict. Alejandra was sentenced to life imprisonment. Murder with brutality, an attempt to conceal this fact, the use of official position, all this was not in favor of the former psychotherapist. Her father, who through the use of connections and bribes tried to spare his daughter from imprisonment, could not help either. But all he managed to do was to keep the trial closed to the public and the press in order to avoid more publicity. However, he did it all for the sake of his own career. Now hardly anyone else will turn to a specialist who raised such a ruthless monster and could not diagnose problems in time with his own daughter. The case of the death of Alejandra's first husband also came to mind at the trial. However, due to the passage of years, the evidence in this case was not found. The version of Alejandra's father's involvement in what happened was also considered. There were suspicions that he was in collusion with his daughter, and they committed crimes on the basis of scientific interest. However, this idea found no evidence. After several appeals from the victims, the sentence was commuted to death. This is an unprecedented situation. Such sentences are extremely rare in Mexico. especially in these times. The defendant is also not entitled to a review of the case. The house and all the property of the accused must go to the family of the victim, although who can be comforted by this if the person can no longer be brought back? Apparently, Alejandra was a pragmatic and cruel woman. She had major mental health issues, although medical examinations denied that she had any. She also harbored the influence of her father and used her official position to carry out her manic plans. Impunity after her first crime had only unleashed her. Alejandra felt invulnerable and continued to do evil. Perhaps Alan would still be alive if this horrible woman had not been acquitted the first time, but it was too late to talk about it now.
Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest content.
In April 2015, the small town of Leaton in New South Wales, Australia, came to a standstill. Businesses closed, and the local high school suspended classes as the community was engulfed in sorrow and mourning, gathering to honor the memory of Stephanie Scott and offer condolences to her family. Over 1,000 people attended Stephanie's funeral, and a public memorial was organized for everyone to join in the communal grief. Many attendees wore Stephanie's favorite color, yellow, releasing yellow balloons into the sky, symbolizing the liberation of her spirit soaring into the heavens. The gathering prayed for Stephanie's eternal rest and comfort and healing for her loved ones. The song chosen for Stephanie and her fiancé Aaron's first wedding dance played, reminding everyone of the young couple's cruelly interrupted story, filling hearts with sadness and sorrow. Stephanie Scott, only 26 years old, was kind, intelligent, and always smiling. From childhood, she was curious and active, participating in school clubs and sports. As an adult, she followed in her father Robert's footsteps as a teacher, sharing his passion for education. She taught English and drama at Leaton High School, taking great pride in her work. Stephanie and Aaron, slightly younger than her, knew each other from a young age. They spent time together, shared interests, and played sports in their hometown. They were close friends until Aaron turned 21, when their relationship blossomed into romance. In early April 2015, Stephanie and Aaron were busily preparing for their wedding, scheduled for the 11th. Stephanie, a perfectionist, had spent months meticulously planning every detail. Almost everything was ready, with arrangements set and a honeymoon booked in Tahiti. She had recently celebrated her bachelorette party. The only remaining task was to rehearse their first dance, for which they had taken many lessons. The first weekend of April reminded them that their eagerly awaited day was almost upon them. Aaron invited Stephanie to join him at a party out of town, but she declined to finish some remaining tasks, including finalizing plans for her students during her honeymoon absence. On Easter Sunday, April 5, 2015, around 11 a.m., Stephanie Scott headed to her school in Leaton, New South Wales, to hand over some work to a deputy teacher. She parked her car on the street and walked to meet a colleague who lived nearby. Together, they opened the school gates and entered. Stephanie then locked the gates behind them and, with keys in hand, proceeded to the English teacher's office. There, she sent an email to a bus company confirming transportation arrangements for her wedding guests. After working for a couple more hours, feeling joyful that all her tasks were successfully completed, Stephanie left the administrative building and walked towards the gates. Aaron, aware that Stephanie had left and would be away for a few hours, grew worried as the evening approached. He had texted her the day before and received prompt replies. However, on April 5th, he received no response from Stephanie. Returning home after 7 p.m., Aaron found that Stephanie was still not back, and her car was absent from the street. Trying to manage his anxiety, he reasoned that perhaps the stress of the upcoming wedding and leaving her students for an extended period had exhausted Stephanie, and she wanted some alone time. Yet, such complete silence was out of character for her. Even amidst the excitement of wedding planning, Stephanie had been enjoying every minute, eagerly sharing details about her dress and the wedding menu. She didn't appear nervous or depressed, but rather excited and ready for her big day. With his concern growing and sleep eluding him, Aaron texted Stephanie again in the morning before calling her family. More than a day had passed since Stephanie's disappearance, and Aaron went to the Leaton police station to report his missing fiancée. The police, after inspecting the vicinity and noting Stephanie's car's disappearance, speculated that she might have left the school and been involved in an accident or gotten stuck in a ditch or creek. Helicopters were deployed to search the area, while ground police headed straight to the last known location of Stephanie Leaton High School.
Due to Easter Sunday and the limited number of people at the school, there were few witnesses, complicating the police investigation but also ruling out hundreds of potential suspects. A check of the school's alarm system in Stephanie's classroom revealed that she had deactivated it at 1:30 p.m. and reactivated it at 1:38 p.m. This provided the police with the precise time when Stephanie was nearby, but it was the only detail they could ascertain. Detectives attempted to use phone tracking, but Stephanie's mobile phone was turned off. The last activities on her bank accounts or social media were on Saturday, April 4th. Local news broadcasts began covering the story by April 7th, while hundreds in the small community eagerly sought any information about Stephanie. However, such behavior was completely uncharacteristic of Stephanie, and as each day passed with her wedding approaching, hope began to fade. Stephanie's mother, Marilyn, stated that if her daughter was not found within the next few hours, it likely meant something terrible had happened. A reporter from a local newspaper in Leaton reported that the police resumed searching the school. They spent most of the day using digital mapping technology to study the school's premises, and specifically marked the room where Stephanie worked on the day of her disappearance. A witness near Leaton High School on Easter Sunday mentioned hearing strange noises around 2 p.m., like rustling and dragging something on the ground. He recalled seeing Stephanie's car under a covered walkway, but didn't think much of it at the time. Later, her car disappeared. Another witness, a school employee, told detectives about an odd conversation he had with one of the school's cleaners the morning after Stephanie's disappearance. Amidst the rumors and anxious talk about the missing girl, the witness asked the cleaner when he last saw Stephanie, and he replied that he hadn't seen her on the day she disappeared. When asked if he thought Stephanie might have run away due to wedding stress, the man strangely and nervously laughed, which felt unsettling to the witness. Additionally, the witness noticed that the cleaner's face had scratches. The police decided to question him for additional information. This was 24-year-old Vincent Stanford. Detectives had a brief conversation with Vincent, who explained that he stopped by the school to take out the garbage bins, although he wasn't scheduled to work that day. He claimed he was there for a short time because he was in a hurry to buy groceries. Vincent asserted he didn't see Stephanie at that time and couldn't help, but wished them luck in their search. He added that he left the school after 3 p.m. to go to the store where he always shopped. The police contacted the store that Vincent claimed to visit, only to learn it was closed on the specified date. This meant Vincent had reasons to lie about the store, making him a suspect in the investigation. Investigators decided to conduct another thorough interrogation of Vincent and went to his home, where he lived with his mother. When they arrived, Vincent was not home. His mother allowed the police to search the house, where they found a set of keys on a red and white cord, matching the description of Stephanie Scott's keys. While the police were bagging evidence, Vincent arrived in his car. He was immediately detained, and his car was confiscated. In the back seat, they found several MDF panels, seemingly stained with blood. Police also noticed tire tracks in front of the house, not matching Vincent's vehicle. Additionally, a used condom was found on the ground, with its wrapper in the bedroom. They asked Vincent where he was on that day, and pointing to a camera on the front passenger seat, he said he was taking photos. Detectives asked for permission to view the camera, and Vincent agreed with a shrug. When the police turned on the camera, the first image they saw was a photo of a burnt woman's corpse lying in a wooded area. Vincent tried to explain it away as just shots from a movie he had filmed, thinking they were funny. However, the police realized these were actual crime scene photos, with Stephanie as the victim. Vincent Stanford, the cleaner at Leaton High School, was immediately arrested. His seized phone and laptop revealed many photos of young girls, both from Leaton High School and from the internet, as well as pictures of women he obviously stalked. This painted a grim picture of his behavior. Although Stephanie's body had not yet been found, Vincent was charged with her murder on April 9th. News of his arrest quickly spread. Vincent Stanford, 24, was detained in connection with Stephanie Scott's disappearance and presumed murder. During this time, a search team found Stephanie's car abandoned in a secluded area, 8 kilometers from where she was last seen. However, her body was still missing, and the search continued. Detectives worked to identify the location where the photos with the body were taken. On April 17th, 5 days after last seeing Stephanie, another witness came forward. He reported seeing a car near a canal around 4 p.m. on Easter Sunday. A man got out of the car and threw an object resembling a laptop into the water before driving away. The police soon retrieved the laptop from the canal bed, confirming it belonged to Stephanie. Meanwhile, divers continued to search for the slain schoolteacher's body in the New South Wales River area. Reporter Natalie Cooper, in a live broadcast, discussed the ongoing search for Stephanie's body. The 26-year-old schoolteacher's body was still missing. Police scoured fields and vineyards near where her red Mazda was found earlier in the week. Police divers also explored the canal in the area, retrieving a laptop believed to be Stephanie's. Cooper mentioned a shrine near the site visited by many that morning. The entire community was deeply saddened, regardless of personal acquaintance with Stephanie. Her family and fiancé visited the shrine the previous night, lighting candles, praying, and comforting each other in their grief. The reporter also noted that police were desperately searching for any sightings of a white vehicle, believed to be owned by Vincent Stanford, the suspect in Stephanie Scott's murder. Witnesses were urged to contact the police immediately. Meanwhile, Vincent, in custody, voluntarily approached the police, requesting to speak with them. He divulged all details to the detectives, including information on where to find Stephanie's body. According to Vincent, on the day of the incident, Stephanie was in the upstairs teacher's room working on a computer with the door to her office open. Vincent was cleaning garbage bins using a pressure vacuum and needed to take some bins upstairs. That's when he noticed Stephanie. Vincent told the detectives that he suddenly had the urge to kill her and quickly went home to fetch his special kit, including handcuffs, Viagra, a knife, and cleaning supplies. He also Googled information about bride violence en route. Returning, he found Stephanie packing up to leave. When she walked past him, she looked into his eyes and smiled, wishing him a happy Easter. That's when Vincent abruptly grabbed her and dragged her into a storeroom. Detectives reminded him of the scratches on his face they noticed during their first encounter and asked about their origin. It turned out some scratches were from Stephanie's microphone and others from her nails as she defended herself while he tried to kill her. Vincent described how he grabbed Stephanie from behind, covered her mouth with his right hand, and encircled her waist with his left hand before taking her to the storeroom. He shut the door and violently threw her to the ground, hitting her from left to right. After assaulting Stephanie, Vincent used the knife to kill her. He felt compelled to do so, admitting to harboring many brutal thoughts and schemes, and having previously killed others. He speculated about having some psychological issues, clarifying that he harbored no hatred towards his victims, but simply enjoyed killing. Vincent then recalled feeling a hunger pang and decided to go home for a sandwich and coffee. Leaving Stephanie lying alone on the storeroom floor, he went to his car. After eating, he returned to the school, placed Stephanie's body in the trunk of her car, and drove her to his home, parking the car on the street. On Easter Monday, Vincent drove Stephanie's car with her body to a national park. There, he removed her body from the trunk and stripped it on the ground. He noticed many bruises and abrasions on Stephanie's face, including swelling on the right side and a bruise under her eye. He then decided to cover the body with branches and douse it with gasoline. He used a match to ignite the fire, which he discarded nearby. Vincent stayed briefly, taking several photos of Stephanie's body with his camera, then waited 5 minutes to ensure the fire was well lit before leaving. He abandoned Stephanie's car on a secluded country road and walked back to town. In response to detectives' questions about the brutal treatment of Stephanie, Vincent continued to deny such actions, although the officers knew it to be untrue. As a result, he faced additional charges of aggravated harm and physical injury to a woman. Investigators inquired why, in the photographs, the woman was undressed except for a bra. Vincent explained that he usually removes almost everything, leaving only the bra. He wasn't sure why he did this, possibly wanting a souvenir. He admitted taking Stephanie's bra. Regarding her earrings and wedding ring, Vincent claimed he didn't remember when he removed them from the woman, but likely threw them in a trash bin along with other items. In fact, Vincent had removed Stephanie's wedding and graduation rings and sent them to his twin brother Marcus, who lived in Adelaide. Marcus sold the rings and earrings at a jewelry store, then destroyed Stephanie's driver's license after taking a photograph of it. A 24-year-old man was arrested at his home in the Adelaide Hills around 7 a.m. Neighbors were shocked that the next chapter in a murder case captivating the nation unfolded right on their doorstep. It was shocking and unsettling for their small street and community. Marcus, Vincent's identical twin, worked on a flower farm. His colleagues described him as very quiet and reserved, hardly interacting with them beyond work. During the trial, Marcus Stanford had no lawyer, and when the judge asked if there were any reasons he should not be sent to Leaton, he replied with a strong Dutch accent that he had never been there and did not need to go. However, the next morning, he was taken to Sydney under police escort and remained in custody. Stephanie's family was further devastated when the police announced a second arrest in Stephanie's case, Vincent's twin brother Marcus. Finally, the search for the missing Stephanie came to an end. In fact, while Vincent was still giving his confession, the police had already located Stephanie's body. A day before her wedding date, a burnt body of a woman was found in a national park 60 miles from Leaton Middle School. Detailed investigation revealed that Stephanie had been brutally beaten on the head with a total of 40 blows, causing her death. Additionally, she had been stabbed in the neck before her body was discarded and set on fire. Photographs found on Vincent's phone conclusively showed that they were of Stephanie. Vincent Stanford's guilt was undeniable, and both he and his brother Marcus were brought to trial. In court, events unfolded unexpectedly. Initially, Vincent denied his guilt, and the proceedings became uncertain. However, based on the presented evidence and police work, it was decided that the case could lead to a conviction. Psychological tests showed that Vincent was believed to be a serial killer, posing a danger. He displayed a lack of emotions and sympathy, was merciless and indifferent, often laughing and not taking the situation seriously. Several troubling moments from his biography came to light. Vincent Stanford was born in Australia, but his family moved to the Netherlands when he was 3 years old. They later returned to New South Wales. At age 7, he dreamt of committing a murder. At 12, he nearly strangled his teacher. Classmates called him a psychopath, and due to problems with violence and disobedience, he was sent to a behavior correction school. He said he could never adapt to society and was later placed in a psychiatric center where he was diagnosed with autism and oppositional defiant disorder. Vincent told the police that after being released, he tried to enter university or join the army, but was rejected in both cases. Therefore, he worked at several different places before getting a job as a cleaner at Leaton Middle School. His initial contract was for 5 weeks, but was then extended. While working at the school, he often hid in the women's restroom during student lunch breaks to watch them. Examining Vincent's mobile phone, detectives found he stalked girls at the school and 2 other women working in nearby shops before murdering Stephanie. Numerous photos of one young girl, about 2,000, were found on his phone. He also kept diary entries about her, following her home several times and noting when she left, trying to determine who else was inside. One entry read, "She's home alone at 15:40, enough time to abduct." He initially targeted this young girl, but when his plan failed because she left town, he turned his attention to Stephanie, who worked at the school. Upon careful examination of Vincent's car, it was found that stains on MDF panels confirmed the presence of Stephanie's DNA. Additionally, during a search inside the Stanford home, investigators found traces of Stephanie's blood on a knife, several condom packets, and her bra. After admitting guilt in selling Stephanie's rings, destroying evidence, and assisting Vincent in hiding facts, Vincent's twin brother Marcus was sentenced to 15 months in prison. The judge noted that Marcus's sentence did not include the possibility of early parole, as there is no such practice. Marcus was sentenced to 1 year and 3 months in prison for his involvement in Stephanie Scott's murder. The sentence was to end on September 9, 2016. Had Marcus not pleaded guilty, he would have been sentenced to 1 year and 8 months in prison. In October 2016, Marcus was released. over 60 people signed a petition calling for an appeal of the court's decision regarding Marcus Stanford, describing it as pathetic. After his release from prison, Marcus briefly returned to Leaton, accompanied by his mother. However, the local community made it clear that his presence was unwelcome and his current whereabouts remain unknown. Marcus has apologized for his actions since his release, claiming he will cause no further trouble and admitting his actions were truly foolish. He regrets his inability to change the past. Marcus wishes to have no contact with his brother Vincent and does not seek to establish any. The twins' father, Steve, expressed confusion and fear over Vincent's crimes and has no desire to communicate with him. He rules out the possibility of meeting Vincent and wants nothing to do with him. Steve stated he cannot comprehend why Vincent committed these crimes, and frankly, he does not intend to seek an answer. On the day before Stephanie's 28th birthday, Vincent Stanford was sentenced to life imprisonment for murder and 15 years for sexual violence under aggravating circumstances. Both sentences were effective from April 8, 2015. During the trial, Stephanie's mother, Marilyn, stated that Vincent was unable to cope with his own life and therefore took Stephanie's, depriving her of a chance at a happy future. They will never know the full extent of their daughter's suffering, but the knowledge that she suffered is too hard to bear. Thus, the family prefers to retreat from the public eye to mourn their beautiful girl and overcome their grief. In the future, Stephanie's relatives will not respond to questions, participate in interviews, or television programs. The day after the trial, the family planned to celebrate Stephanie's too short and amazing life on what would have been her 28th birthday, the second birthday they've celebrated without her. A tea party with mint cookies was scheduled for 3 p.m., and Stephanie's mother invited everyone to join. The Scott family also called for stricter screening and evaluation of school staff to prevent similar incidents in the future and reduce risks to students like those faced by Stephanie Scott. Tragically, more than a year after Stephanie's death, her father Robert died in a bizarre accident when a tree fell on him, leading to his death. He was buried near the same place where his daughter was interred. Having lost Stephanie, Aaron moved to Europe, hoping to heal his pain associated with New South Wales. 5 years after losing his beloved, Aaron met a new love and announced his engagement to a woman named Samantha. The community of Leaton was deeply affected by the tragic story of Stephanie Scott. She will never be forgotten, and her life story has been immortalized in books. Stephanie's family hopes that people will remember her and all her remarkable qualities, her passion for teaching, helping, and mentoring others. They believe Stephanie embodied all the good qualities of a human being and made a significant impact on many lives. In her memory, her loved ones encourage everyone to be kind to themselves and strive to do good in the world. Stephanie Scott's story leaves a profound mark that inspires everyone to live a life filled with caring for others.